It didn't take me much longer than a week to fail my first funded evaluation, which is something that many new traders experience. But the thing that separated me from the majority was I learned. I adapted and I overcame the things that failed me in the first one, and I passed my second funded evaluation within around 2 weeks. To be specific, it took me 11 days, which is very rare, especially for beginner traders. And this was my second attempt. The things that I learned from my first funded were crucial for passing that second time, and most traders cannot adapt them into their trading. By the end of this video, you'll know the things that held me back in my first evaluation, and hopefully you'll be able to implement them into your trading before it's too late. Now, if you're new to my channel, I do a lot of trading videos here, and actually just the video before this, I made that video on my first evaluation. That covers me doing all the things I did, and it really shows you on a first-hand level what I went through and how I failed.
Order filled.
Boom! So if you haven't watched that already, I recommend going and checking that out if you're interested to see what really happened, see my emotions, and just see how it played out. So buying my first funded, I had a very confident mindset. I've never been much of an emotional person, so I kind of I didn't expect to lose, but I was also okay with the possibility. I think a big factor of it was I'm not an emotional person. I'm not very emotional, and I thought that was going to be my golden ticket. That's going to pass me my funded because it all comes down to emotion, which in a sense that has some truth to it, but there's much more to it. Even not being an emotional person doesn't accommodate for the gambling mindset, the losses, chasing them, the revenge trading, the greed. It doesn't accommodate for that. So you have to be more than a stable person. You have to be hardwired. You know, it's unfortunate, but for a lot of you out there, the only way you'll probably be able to get over that mindset is just by losing. There will be moments where you're pushed to your limit, and it really depends how you react in those moments. And there's probably going to be a lot of failure, and that's just the price that needs to be paid for success in this field. You know, it's not supposed to be easy. It's really not. I remember, and I actually covered this in that first funded video I mentioned, I would get into this mindset after losing a big trade on a day, and I'd think, oh crap, well that sucks. Let me just put in a few lucky trades and maybe I can make back some of what I lost. Bruh. I mean, saying that out loud, it sounds stupid. I'd never be dumb enough to do something like that. That's what I thought. It really takes control over you. Especially for me, at least, a big thing was the fact that I didn't even really put anything up. All I'm putting up is $100 of my own money, and I'm playing around with 2K, so what's it matter if I lose a little more? Yeah, and then you're gonna fail and buy another one. You really have to take that into consideration. Another thing was, if I would take multiple trades in a day, if I lost a trade and then later had a winning trade, it wouldn't fulfill me. The fact that I'm still at a net negative on the day meant that every win I got after that felt like it wasn't really a win. It was just absorbing some of my loss, which didn't give me the reward I was looking for, and it would lead me to take more trades and just end up losing everything I made and some. And you know, in that video, there was a certain point, it was the last day of my funded challenge, right before I failed, and I was like 300 away from blowing it, and it was already over. It was already over. You know, being able to watch back all those trades I took really gave me some perspective, and I was able to witness firsthand everything I was thinking, going through in those moments. And that helped me a lot because rewatching it, the biggest thing I noticed was I would never take any of these trades twice. And I think that is crucial for newer traders, is journaling or at least keeping track of your trades somehow, because being able to look over these things you're doing is huge for the learning process. You know, every loss is a lesson, but you can't really expect to extract much meaning from those lessons if you're not saving them and reviewing them somewhere. You can't just lose and expect it to, you know, be saved in your brain like a robot, as much as I wish it was that way. Being able to look back on what you're doing really is crucial. So if I were you and you're a beginner trader, every trade you take, whether it's on your funded or paper trading, I would take a screenshot of the final trade, put it in a journal somewhere, and just write your thoughts on it. How you did, what you did, how you were feeling during the trade, what you wish you did differently. It's really on you, what you think you need to improve on the most, and just being able to read back on those every now and then is really big. A lot of people underestimate how much that can do in itself. Now, for me, a big thing I think about is after failing your first evaluation, how much time do you need before you go in again? And there's no straight answer to that question. You know, for me, it wasn't long. It took me like 2 or 3 days, I think. I think the day I failed might have been a Friday or a Thursday. I think it was a Friday. So I had about a weekend where the stock market was closed anyways, and I just locked in for that weekend. I spent hours backtesting. I was up until like 3 in the morning just going over my strategy trading. And by the time Monday came, I felt like a new trader. And that was the biggest problem for me, I think. A mix of my mindset and a mix of my strategy. My strategy wasn't refined enough. I didn't have clear entry rules. That's pretty much the gist of it. I don't even need to go deeper than that. That was one of the biggest problems, aside from my mindset and the gambling problem, was I didn't have a rock solid entry plan for my trades. I was more discretionary, realizing that it was bad. I didn't have any clear things I needed to see before every trade. I didn't, have a system. I didn't have a solid system. I knew what I was looking for, but I didn't know the order and when I'm looking for it and when I'm allowed to enter. That's something you really have to develop before you even think about buying a funded. Personally, what I would do is, if I could redo that whole thing again, find a strategy that clicks with me. It doesn't have to be the one that's proven most on YouTube or whatever by your favorite trader. Just the one that makes sense to you, the one that clicks. And there might not be one that clicks right away. You might need to just continue practicing and practicing until it starts to make sense. But finding one that really does just kind of work for you is biggest. Then after that, you backtest it, make sure it works for you, because one strategy can work for someone, but it doesn't mean it's going to work for someone else. A really big saying or quote, whatever, that stuck with me was, I can't remember who said it, but it was someone on TikTok who said, a trading strategy is like a sniper. You give it to a trained veteran who's had years of experience, and he'll use it as a weapon with insane effectiveness. You give it to a civilian who's never used one before, and it's almost useless. The sniper's no different. It's just the person wielding it. Same thing goes for trading strategies. It's not the strategy, it's the trader. A strategy is no better than the person who trades it. So don't get into the rat race in trading of finding the highest win rate, the highest risk to reward. Find the one that works for you and then get better and better and better. I'd recommend never switching from one strategy to another until you've had a few months of solid testing. And if it's really not working for you at all, then maybe you can branch out and look. For me, just recently, I've completely, switched around my strategy after around 2 months of using the one that I failed at funded with. Taking the time to figure out what strategy works for you is so big, because then you can focus on what's really important, the mindset. Once you have your strategy figured out and you have it locked in, it works objectively, it makes sense to you, you can spot it, then that takes so much of the heavy lifting from trading, and now it gives you the mental clarity to focus more on you. Like I said before, your mental is huge. You have to train yourself to be that veteran who can use that sniper as a weapon, because your strategy is no better than you. So you really have to figure out your strategy, have it locked in, so then you can do the self-work to actually capitalize using that strategy. Just like rules, you need to have a loss limit system. You can set some with certain prop firms. I know Top Step allows you to use a limit of how much you can lose per day. Set it. If you're watching this video right now and you already have a funded account, pause, switch tabs, and set a loss limit. For me, a big loss limit was 500 on the day for my 50k eval, which honestly, losing 500 in a day is probably considered more aggressive of a strategy, but I did not want to spend 3 weeks trying to pass that eval, which might have been a flaw of mine in itself. Maybe I was too hungry to pass it, but it worked for me. I needed to risk 500 per trade. That way I could seek to gain around 1k to 1500. I really want you to self-reflect on your rules and your system, so you have something solid that every day, if you breach it, you breached it. Not, oh, I did a little worse today. No, you broke your rules. You need to know what your rules are so you can know if you're exceeding them. A big thing I preach on my other social medias is stop losses, limits. Because if you're going through your winning and losing days on a calendar and all of the losing days are just different numbers, that's a problem. That's a big problem that needs to be addressed. And you have to treat this trading almost as a business, because in some way it is. You can't just one day lose 800, the next day lose 200, the other day lose this much. You have to have a limit of which you cannot exceed. For my funded, that was 500. I would not let myself go past 500. And that was a big problem I made on my first fund. I had like negative $1,000 losing days. That's absurd. Why am I letting myself lose that much in a day? And that building that habit of not allowing yourself to lose a certain amount is literally going to ascend you when you actually have a funded account. Getting into that good habit during your evaluation is such a head start as a trader. You need to implement that. And the why behind it is because you need to predict your losses. If you have like a 60% win rate, it's mathematically inevitable you're going to go on a losing streak of maybe 3, 4, 5 trades, but it's going to happen. And you need to be able to afford that losing streak. If you know your set amount every day that you're allowed to lose, then you can predict, if I go on a losing streak of 4, I'll still be okay to continue trading with this account. I won't blow it. If you do not have a system in place like that, there is no guarantee that you will survive that losing stage. So already we've covered a lot of bases. Just the mental and the actual things you can literally implement into your trading. But a big one that also helped me was, for the mental, was not allowing myself to re-enter trades. The losses that I took that I would chase, I would take another trade because, oh, I already lost some. I can just try and make some of that back. Or, oh, well, I'm still in the red, so I might as well take another trade and try and cover more of my loss. Waiting and reflecting after taking a loser is huge for that. I mean, first of all, if you're losing a trade and you're already at your max limit for the day, you should just get off the chart, reflect on what you did, and don't even think about entering a new trade. But if you have more room and you're comfortable taking a new trade, you need to wait. You need to think about the trade you just took, let yourself calm down a little bit, and then think, okay, how can I realistically enter another winning position here? More often than not, after losing a trade, you're fired up, you're emotionally charged, and you want to make that money back, and that's where you lose the most money. That state of mind is where you fail. And you know, trading gets boring, and I like to think that when trading gets boring, that's when you're in the best stage for development, because you need it to be boring. If it's fun and exciting, it's probably gambling. Obviously the wins feel good and the losses hurt, but to be able to sit in front of the chart for 1 to 2 hours and literally not touch it is a skill in itself. Being able to sit back and actually realize that I don't need to take a trade is huge, because unfortunately the market is not going to present setups every day. I know in the ICT space it really preaches, you know, 2 to 3 setups per day. That's just not going to happen all the time. In fact, it probably won't happen often at all. You need to be able to just sit in front of the chart and sit on your hands. Just watch. A big thing that kind of helps for me with that, seeing a day with no trades taken as a winning day as well. And just really shifting your mindset to that made me feel better about not taking trades. You know, it's okay. Sometimes you'll skip out on a trade, or you'll want to trade again, but you don't. And maybe a trade will play out in your favor. That's exactly what I thought was going to happen. It happened right in front of me, but I didn't take the entry. So what? It happens, dude. It happens to everybody. If you fall into that mindset of, man, I should have just took the trade. Ah, damn, that sucks. Don't. Dude, it doesn't matter. There is going to be thousands of setups, okay? Just because you missed one little setup that you predicted and didn't take a trade, doesn't matter. Stop feeling so salty over something so insignificant. There's a strong enough chance that literally overnight, when you get on the charts tomorrow, another setup will present itself. There's no shortage of good trades. Now, moving towards my second attempt where I actually managed to pass my evaluation, there was a few moments that if I didn't gather the things I did from the first one, I would have failed it twice. I cut out the bad habits. You know, there was some moments where I would take a hefty loss, about 500, my max loss limit, on a trade, and I'd be like, damn. And I walked away. You know, that was the biggest win for me. Even though I may have lost on the charts, the fact that I was okay with walking away after such a hard loss, that was huge. It felt good. I felt like I was improving, and I was. And you know, that's something that you can't just expect to have fall into place on its own. Your actions have to shift, you know? You have to get better at those things before you expect to pass one of these 50K fundeds, 100K fundeds. A big thing I hear sometimes in my comments on TikTok and whatnot is people have spent 4K on 20 different evaluations. What the hell, dude? Realistically, if on that second attempt I failed again, I probably would have stopped for a little bit, figured out what I'm doing wrong. Because if you've managed to fail a funded account 4 times, 5 times, so on, and you're just going right back in after the other one, what do you expect to change? Are you really even changing? You've already proven 5 times you're not. Why are you going in again? If after you fail a funded, you feel like you have genuinely shifted your perspective on your trading and actually had a groundbreaking discovery or shift, then, you know, go for the second funded. Go for it. That's what I did, you know? But if you fail that second one or that third one, you know, you got to stop for a second and really just focus on what you're doing wrong. A great saying that correlates with that perfectly is nothing changes if nothing changes. But I just want to say it's worth it. The feeling of passing that funded is so rewarding, and it's amazing. Trading is such a blessing, and you really have to be grateful for all of it. Just be grateful for the losses, for the wins, for everything you do in your trading journey, because all of it has a purpose and a reason, and it all will come together at some point for you. They say 1% of traders pass, and that's not luck. That's work. That's determination. Don't think you can't do it, because you can, and you will if you put in the time and effort. So if you're in your first funded challenge right now, the biggest thing I tell you is, are you trading a strategy or are you trading a feeling? Is your mindset really solid? Do you have max loss limits? Do you have entry rules? Can you predict your losses? Can you think, oh, if I lose the next 3 trades, 4 trades, back to back to back, will I still be in ownership of this funded, or will it be gone? Will it be blown? Figure those things out. Do the math behind it, because there's math in trading. It's win rate, risk to reward ratios. If you can prove mathematically that you can survive those losing streaks and you can stay afloat in those hard times, then that's already an edge right there. So I want to know, you sitting at your desk or in your bed, wherever you are right now, have you bought a funded account? Have you passed a funded account? And what is your issues? I read my comments. I'll respond. Tell me what is going on with you. What are you doing? What do you need to improve on? And there's so much to this. Trading is such a beautiful thing. There's so much depth, so many things you can mess up, so many things you can do right. So, just like I said, appreciate it all. If this helped, stick around. I'm documenting everything I do. I record my trades. I do it all. And yeah, let me know what you guys want to see maybe. I appreciate you spending the time to make it to the end of the video. Seriously, my heart goes out to you for making it through this video. And I have faith in you. I know you're going to make this shit happen. It's just a matter of time. And you should have that mindset too. So stay dialed in. I'll see y'all next time.